Hello and welcome back to Precon Decon, the video series where I deconstruct the pre-constructed decks of Magic the Gathering's history. So here we are at the start of Season 4, so we are going to look from Magic 2012 all the way up to the end of Theros block, so really glad that you're here with me to explore those decks here. We're going to start off looking at Magic 2012 as it's a core set. So we're going to start off by looking at Blood and Fire, which is a black and red deck. Let's start looking at that. So we've got the deck list here. I've decided to bring this back throughout Season 3. I didn't have this, basically I thought it was the videos weren't as good without it. So I've brought it back here, and I just think it is a nice introduction, really, just to go through kind of like the breakdown of how many card types and have a mana curve here. Let me know what you think of that. But yeah, so we have 26 creatures, 4 sorceries, 4 instants, 1 enchantment, 1 artifact, 24 land, and a mana curve off to the side there. So let's start looking at the deck. So the theme of the deck is Bloodthirst, which we actually saw back in Guild Pact, way back in original Ravnica, whereas the faction ability of the Gruul clans. What Bloodthirst is basically if an opponent has been dealt damage in the turn and you play a Bloodthirst creature, the creature with Bloodthirst comes in with a certain number of +1/+1 counters on it. So you can see here Blood Ogre has Bloodthirst 1. So if your opponent's been dealt damage, you play this and it gets +1/+1 counter. And typically the payoff being that then the creature is bigger and more efficient for its cost. When it was first used in Guild Pact with the Gruul, it was okay, but I kind of got the feeling that the cards were kind of costed assuming you always got Bloodthirst off, whereas now I think in M12 when it's been redone, you can cast a card with Bloodthirst. If you need to, if you need to do it, say main phase 1, you just need to get a creature down, and the creature is still fine as is, maybe a little unexciting, but it's fine. Whereas if you manage to get it with the Bloodthirst off, then it's really well costed for it, for its size and stuff. Then it feels like you're getting a really good deal. And I will get on to talking about the cards eventually. I just want to share my thoughts more about Bloodthirst. It's kind of what I discussed back in the Gruul video, which feels like ages and ages ago. But I do think it's a good teaching tool as well, especially in a core set here, because Bloodthirst pushes players to play creatures in their second main phase, post combat. You've got creatures through, you've done damage, then you main phase 2, you play creatures. And just think about sequencing as well, because I've mentioned it a few times. But when I've played against all newer, younger players, they just assume combat is the end of the turn. Main phase 1, play stuff, and then you have combat, and then you end turn. Whereas this shows nope, there is main phase 2 after combat, and there can be benefits of playing stuff then. Anyway. Let's actually start talking about the cards here. So Bloodthirst in M12, it was across red and green, as you might expect. Those are the Gruul colours, but it was in black as well. So this could have gone two ways. This deck, it could have been red green or as it is red black. I think red black makes more sense for it because this deck's actually pretty good in my opinion. Anyway, let's actually finally start looking at the cards. Stop waffling on about Bloodthirst. So we have 3 Blood Ogres, which is really nice to get 3 of these. So 2 in a red for a 2/2 with Bloodthirst 1 and First Strike. So this is what I mean. At 3 mana, 2/2 First Strike is perfectly fine, in red. But if you cast this for 3 and it's a 3/3 with First Strike for 3, then that's pretty good, especially at common. That's really good, I think. So that's kind of I think one of the bread and butter creatures of this deck, and it would have pulled a lot of duty. A 3/3 with First Strike is really hard to deal with. Especially if you played this turn 3, that'd be really difficult to deal with, I think. We have 2 Gorehorn Minotaurs, so 2 and 2 red for a 3/3, has Bloodthirst 2. So 4 mana, it's just a 3/3, which is fine. That's Hill Giant stats. But if you can get Bloodthirst off, then it's a 5/5 for 4, which is pretty good in red. And it's obviously got no other drawbacks or anything. This is also a pretty good Bloodthirst creature, I think. And then 2 Stormblood Berserkers, 1 in a red for a 1/1, has Menace and has Bloodthirst 2. So again, if you play this just for 2 mana without the Bloodthirst, like a 1/1 for Menace is like at the time was kind of okay. But getting this down, being a 3/3 with Menace for only 2 mana is, at the time would have been really, really strong, I think. So yeah, these are all really good. These red Bloodthirst creatures. And then we have a bunch of black Bloodthirst creatures. So a bunch of vampires, which makes sense for them to be Bloodthirst. And obviously, this is like a really nice plant because we're going into Innistrad after this, where there's a lot of vampires. So yeah, it's nice to kind of have these. And the vampires in Innistrad care about +1/+1 counters. So this is like a nice bit of kind of sneak peek for what's coming up next. So 2 Blood Rage Vampires, 2 and a black for a 3/1 has Bloodthirst 1, so it becomes a 4/2. Not as good as any of the red Bloodthirst creatures. I think out of all the Bloodthirst creatures in M12, I think this one was probably the weakest. I mean, it still becomes a 4/2 for 3 mana, which is okay, but like that's all it does. It's just, I just don't think it's as impressive. Like even the Minotaurs, even though they don't have an ability, I think are better than this just because they are bigger. They feel less frail, but this is still okay. 3 Dusk Hunter Bats, 1 and a black for a 1/1 flyer with Bloodthirst. So yeah, it can be a 2/2 flyer for 2, which is pretty good. Obviously, just being evasive as well, you can play it early. Has evasion to get through, maybe do damage, and help your other help trigger Bloodthirst for your other things. So yeah, this is, I think, pretty good having 3 of these. And then 2 Vampire Outcasts, so 2 and 2 black for a 2/2 with Bloodthirst 2 and Lifelink. So yeah, if you manage to get this down and you've triggered Bloodthirst, it's a 4/4 with Lifelink for 4 mana, which is again like really strong. I think. Yeah, you could play it. It being a 2/2 with Lifelink. This is one I think. Where like you definitely want to do this with Bloodthirst. Obviously, you want to do all of them with Bloodthirst, but this is the one. This is the only one I can really think of where it feels definitely overcosted if you play it without Bloodthirst. Because like a 2/2 for Lifelink should only be sort of like 2 mana or whatever. But if you get it with Bloodthirst, then yeah, it's really really good. So that was all the Bloodthirst creatures. So we do have some other ways to help trigger Bloodthirst. So yeah, the thing with Bloodthirst, I've said Bloodthirst so much it's like lost all meaning. But it doesn't have to be combat damage; it can be any damage, which is really good. Which why it goes really well in red because you got all the burn options, obviously. So we have 2 Goblin Fireslingers, 1 red mana for a 1/1. Taps to do 1 damage to target player. So kind of not as flexible as say like Prodigal Pyromancer. It can't hit creatures, but it's only 1 red mana. No activation cost on that ability other than tapping it. Does damage to players, triggers Bloodthirst. Yep, this is really good. Single Goblin Arsonist, 1 red mana for a 1/1. When it dies, you can have it deal 1 damage to target creature. Oh, we should say as well that now we have that the wording has changed to go from goes to a graveyard this turn or like is destroyed or something. Now we just have when creatures die, because the wording has changed to cut down on sentence length and stuff. So yeah, that's an important kind of terminology change and very fitting considering we're going to Innistrad, which is the horror set where things are going to be dying all the time. But yeah, Goblin Arsonist, 1 red mana, 1/1. When it dies, does 1 damage to anything. Yep, this is really good. Again, like perfectly fine for a 1-drop. Doing 1 damage to anything. Yep, get Bloodthirst damage through. Yep, fine. And then a single Goblin Bang Chuckers, which great name by the way. 2 and 2 red for a 2/2. Not a great card, unfortunately. It's one of these like it's a typical like red uncommon of this era where like it's kind of like not great and it's a bit too wacky, but yeah. So 2 and 2 red for 2/2. Tap, flip a coin. If you win the flip, it does 2 damage to target creature or player. If you lose the flip, it does 2 damage to itself. So yeah, 50-50 chance of killing itself. I don't think there's a way of boosting its toughness in the deck. But yeah, it's not wonderful, is it? It's okay. Like if you, I guess it's a gamble. At least it's not doing damage to you, I suppose. But yeah, obviously, yeah, not wonderful. I would have replaced that straight away. So the foil face row of the deck is Flameblast Dragon, so 4 and 2 red for a 5/5. So this is a reprint from Alara, I believe. So 5/5 flyer. When it attacks, you can pay X and a red, and if you do, it does X damage to target creature or player. I have always liked Flameblast Dragon way more than Shivan Dragon, because what's not to like about a big dragon that has like a free inbuilt blaze effect. This is really good, like mana sink. Obviously, again, it helps trigger Bloodthirst, because even if it gets blocked, it can just barf fire onto a player and get that damage in. So yeah, really like Flame Blast Dragon, like really good core set rare to have in this deck, I think. Single Goblin Tunneler, 1 and a red for a 1/1, taps to make a creature with power 2 or less unblockable a turn. Yep, this is really good, helps small creatures get through, and again, trigger Bloodthirst, so yep, this is perfectly fine. I think this is it's a functional reprint of the classic Dwarven Warriors, I think. So there you go, a bit of trivia there. A single Tormented Soul, 1 black mana for a 1/1, can't block and is unblockable. So yep, again, sneaks through, hits your opponent, triggers Bloodthirst. We're starting to see the strategy here, I think. Really like Tormented Soul. Like this was I really like this just for a single black mana. I think it does a lot. It's really good as well because it's going to come back in M13 where it is going to fulfill a completely different niche, but we'll see that when we get to it. And then none of these really help specifically with Bloodthirst. They're just decent utility, good cards, I suppose. Single Volcanic Dragon, 4 and 2 red, 4/4 flying and haste. I love this artwork on it; it's so good. This is a reprint, I think, from Portal Mirage, something like that. Anyway, Volcanic Dragon's really good. Just slap it down, immediately swing with a big 4/4 dragon is really nice. Single Manic Vandal to destroy artifacts. It's a 2/2 for 3. Yep, it's fine. And a single Onyx Mage, 1 and a black for a 2/1. 1 and a black, target creature you control gets Death Touch until end of turn. This is a cycle of these. I always compare them to like the lanterns from DC Universe. Like they all have like a little creed. They're all holding something and they're sort of like swearing an oath. This one's pretty good. Quite like this one that gives Death Touch. They're all pretty good. The red one is my least favorite because it gives haste. Or the other 4 I think are all really, really good. 2 Crumbling Colossus, so 5 mana for a 7/4 trample, but whenever it attacks, you sacrifice it into combat, so you only get like kind of 1 swing with it. It can stand back and block. Obviously, it's a pretty big, scary blocker with 7 power. But again, it having trample, it really helps. Get damage through and trigger Bloodthirst. So like a really tight strategy in this deck. I think it's really. I feel like this would be really good out of the box, honestly. 3 shocks, classic burn. Obviously, it's putting double duty here. Not only is it damaging an opponent or getting rid of creatures, it's also potentially triggering Bloodthirst. We don't have Lightning Bolt now. Lightning Bolt's been retired. We're back to shock now in M12. Single Incinerate, 1 and a red, does 3 damage to a creature or player, and creature damage can't regenerate. Yep, this is fine. 2 Tectonic Rifts. I really like this, and I don't know why I don't know why there's not more hype at this card, because like casual player me thinks this is great. So 3 in a red, destroys a land, which is not great. I mean, land destruction is not great. But 3 in a red, destroy target land, and creatures without flying can't block this turn. This is like just a game-ending spell, right? You just remove all blockers for a turn. Well, obviously apart from flying creatures, but like you remove the majority of blockers for a turn, and also blow up a land for 4 mana. This seems like really good to me personally. And it really helps in this deck as well. It does exactly what this deck wants to be doing. Similarly, we have Hideous Visage, which is 2 and a black, gives all your creatures Intimidate until end turn, so they can't be blocked except by artifact creatures or creatures that share a color with it. So again, just another way to give a creature's evasion, so you can get through and trigger Bloodthirst, or when you've got your big Bloodthirst creatures out, they just get through unblocked, perfectly fine. And then a single Taste of Blood, another Bloodthirst enabler, 1 black mana just to deal 1 damage to a player and you gain 1 life. So kind of a tiny amount of damage. That's literally all you need to do to trigger Bloodthirst, and like it's obviously even referenced in the name, Taste of Blood. And then the other rare of the deck is Warstorm Surge. So 5 in a red. Enchantment: when a creature enters the battlefield under your control, it does damage equal to its power to target creature or player. So this turns all your creatures into burn, which is really good, because of the way it's worded. Like you can't cast a creature with Bloodthirst, get the damage, and then get the Bloodthirst trigger because of like the timing. But what you can do is, if you manage to have damaged your opponent already and you cast a creature with Bloodthirst, they'll come in with the counters and then do extra damage because they come in with the you get what I mean. So yeah, this is kind of a, again, like fun classic. It's, it's one-sided pandemonium, and pandemonium back in the day was like a really fun enchantment. This means it only applies to your stuff, which is pretty good. But yeah, this is like a really good late game finisher. Like if you just need to, if you don't even want to bother with combat, if you just want to shoot your opponent with the last bit, or even remove troublesome creatures, yeah, and a really good rare. I think two really good rares in this deck actually. And then a single Swiftfoot Boots. So 2 mana. Equipment. Equipped creature has hexproof and haste. This is the other thing. So not only have things changed to, creatures say when they die, hexproof has now been keyworded. Up until now, we were calling it Troll Shroud after, Troll Aesthetic from Mirrodin, which I think was one of the first cards to have it as an ability. But yeah, now it's hexproof. So yeah, that's been keyworded now. So it's going to show up like a lot more going forward. Yeah, so this is basically like Lightning Greaves version 2. So obviously hexproof is it says it can't be targeted by spells or abilities your opponent control. I have some thoughts on hexproof. I'm not going to mention them in this video because I think we're overrunning a little bit. I waffled about bloodthirst. In another video, I think I'll give my thoughts on hexproof as a mechanic and yeah, what are my thoughts on it. But yeah, Swiftfoot Boots is obviously really good. And then we have 14 mountains and 10 swamps. So yeah. So what could have been? So overall, I do think the deck is really solid. I think I do think it would be pretty good out of the box. Honestly, like I don't think maybe like Goblin Bankchuckers is like the only bad card I can really think of, and like even then it's not terrible. But yeah, overall I think it's sticking really closely to like the bloodthirst strategy. So yeah, really like it. Maybe Sengir Vampire. Just 3 and 2 black for 4/4 flyer. When it deals damage, whenever creature dealt damage by it dies, you get a counter on it. Just a big flying creature, honestly. Just it doesn't hurt to have another one of those. Fling, I thought could be good. You got your big bloodthirst creatures. They've got more powerful, and then you fling them to do extra damage. And also, it's another way of getting damage through to an opponent, and then you cast bloodthirst things. Active treason as well. Like, sure, why not? Steal an opponent's creature, gets a blocker out of the way, and you could swing with it. Is another way of getting damage, which triggers bloodthirst. But I think what is here is already like pretty good anyway. So yeah, I think this one is I generally think this one's pretty good. Spoiler, I think all the M12 decks are pretty good, so this is like a really good start to not only looking at this set, but also I think just season 4 in general. It's really nice to be back doing these videos. But yeah, those are my thoughts on the deck. If you've got any thoughts, stories, comments, opinions about this deck, stick a comment below. Always love reading those. But I'm going to be back next time, go look at the next M12 core set intro pack. But until then, thanks for watching and listening. Have a great day.